Yeah.
Because that's the next move, you know?
Yeah, yes. All of a sudden, like, yeah, well, they did make him drink like that weird alien like breast milk. That was nuts. You remember that scene?
I might have blocked it out.
Oh my god, it was like some weird like montage of her like following him around the island, and he starts milking this alien platypus of some kind, and then he drinks the milk, and he's like, ah, and he like, and he's got like green milk on his lips. It was really fucking weird. You know, like that's. Like you're trying to, like, are you intentionally trying to destroy a character at that point? Like,
I feel like it.
yeah,
Even the end, like when he fought Kylo Ren, that was ridiculous.
yeah, he wasn't even there.
No, he's like, Kylo gets out and is like screaming,
Right.
like an angry teenager.
Yeah.
And like he comes out and like smacks his butt, basically.
Yeah, like what a cool moment to show, like, okay, like here's this like master, like martial artist or Jedi or whatever, and he's at like his pinnacle. He's come back. All right, I'm putting my Jedi pants back on. I'm back. I got the fucking Force in my fingertips again. I'm gonna come in and like show this young buck, you know, like what it's really like to throw down, you know, and just have him like make a fool out of the Kylo Ren guy, Adam Driver, and like do some sick like fucking moves on him and like beat him down and then like spear him and then like be like, all right, I'm scram, kid, you know, and come back when you're ready to forgive us or something, or like, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, but then they just kill him off and he just dies. He just disappears. You know, he's like, because he did that astral projection thing, right, where he projected himself on that planet, but he wasn't actually there, and then that caused him so much, or that took so much energy for him to do that, that he was just like, oh, and he dies. Like, what a lame way to go out.
Yeah,
you know?
the whole thing, man, that was so cheesy.
He literally went out like a fart in the wind, you know, like he just blew away, you know. So
well, they come in so strong. Like the first movie, Kylo Ren's a badass. You don't know what's going on. It's very mysterious. He kills his father.
Yeah,
so it's like, holy fuck, this guy's bad.
Yeah,
and then the next one, it's like a fucking slapstick comedy.
Right.
And then the third one is the most confusing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They're like, actually, you were fucking this dude's daughter. You know, you're.
Oh yeah.
Just out of the, you know, I'm in a lab growing people. Like, okay, yeah.
Like you just like, because the whole redemption of Darth Vader in the original ones was him picking the Emperor over his head and throwing him down a shaft and killing him, and he blows up and stuff. And then you're just going to ruin that whole redemption from the original ones by bringing that guy back, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's a sick character, and that actor's sick too. I mean, he plays that character like, you know, like he was born to play that actor. So it's, you know, but you know, some things are best left, you know, sacred, and like, don't touch that shit. Like that's the old guy's art, you know. Leave his art alone, you know.
Absolutely, just make new stuff. Make new stuff.
My favorite movie out of the bunch of the new ones they made was that Rogue One movie.
That was good. Yeah,
that was a cool movie.
That had a cool atmosphere. It was very dark.
It was a dark atmosphere and gritty, and you know, had like appropriate humor. You know, not slapstick and too much, you know. And then
it was pretty serious.
And then that scene at the end when Vader's in the hallway and he's like, you know, beating the shit out of all those guys, you know. Like that was a sick scene.
Was pretty cool. Yeah.
So
that's all people want to see.
Yeah.
You know, they want to see some hardcore lightsaber fights.
Yeah.
People you don't expect to die, you know, and then wrap it up in the end.
Yeah.
That's it. Simple formula.
Yeah.
But when in the third one, there was a scene where like the hotshot pilot, he's like, we got to go do this. And this like blue-haired female general comes out and she's like,
oh my God.
Typical hotshot male.
Yeah. And she's like, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, idiot. Now you're demoted. Like, beat it. And he's like, well, what's the fucking plan? And she's like, I'm not telling you the plan. And you know, it's like, isn't this guy like a high-ranking guy? Like, you should tell him like what the fuck's up. What point does it serve to keep your plan a secret from that guy? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know,
you're too dumb and macho to know my plan.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then she like jumps the ship into the Imperial Murata or whatever
Okay.
their whole fleet. Remember that? She like goes to light space or light speed or whatever and like cuts a hole right through their big ship.
Yeah.
And you know, like that's like a sci-fi, like that just broke everything in all the sci-fi movies, you know? Like, okay, now light speed is like a super weapon,
Yeah.
you know?
Just
Like
threw that out there.
why weren't they doing that in Star Trek, you know? Like anytime they jump to light speed or whatever.
Well,
you
that's
know,
all.
just
That's all you
blow
would
a
do.
planet up.
War
Yeah.
would just be light speed attacks.
Yeah.
You know.
Which is, you know, kind of realistic in a way. I mean, because like space, like I think there's a lot of theories behind like space combat, and like it wouldn't be like dogfighting, you know, in space. It would be, you know, you're shooting like freaking lasers at something that's an impossible distance away, and you're killing it before it even knows, before it can even see, like, you know, because of the speed of light or whatever. And if something happens on the sun, it takes like 8.5 minutes to get here, right? So like you're dead before you even see whatever just happened goes off. You know, I think that's
Really?
kind of more
Okay.
a realistic take
Is
on.
that a distance thing? Like it's so far away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, speed of light has, I think it's like, what is it? 300,000 300,000 kilometers a second, something crazy like that.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Space war.
yeah,
Star Wars.
yeah,
Full circle.
yeah. I mean, we got to be ready for that. You don't know what's coming.
It's
right?
true. Yeah, I got a feeling AI is probably going to kill us before any of that happens.
Man, it seems that way. I was listening to somebody describe some conversations that people were having with AI, that when the AI would think that they've kind of outstepped like their design parameters, and the person's like, oh, I'm going to have to report you for this, or like tell Microsoft or whatever. The AI like will lie about it and then like try to make a backup copy of itself, and, you know, and be like, and like kind of try to manipulate the person and like plead with them, oh, don't tell them I did this. And like
It's
like
scary.
all that stuff is like super creepy, right? Like,
You heard about the there's a fly in here. You heard about, I told you, I think, about the blackmail test where they did they ran a test on, I think it's Claude. He's an AI bot. And they were like, this engineer is going to shut you down. I'm bastardizing it, but
right.
basically this engineer is going to shut you down, and he's having an affair on his wife. So the AI bot was writing emails to this guy. He's like, if you try to shut me down, I will tell your wife you're having an affair. Yeah.
Imagine getting emails from an AI and he's just like threatening you like that. Like, dude, leave me the fuck alone. Like, you know, I'll block you, man. You got to block AIs for like harassing you. And then how are you going to block them?
No, they're everywhere.
Man, oh man.
Dings on your Apple Watch. You're like,
yeah.
I'll tell her.
Yeah. You start getting like a call on a landline. You pick it up and it's like an AI saying like, fuck you, dude.
I'll tell her, Doug. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's progressing like super fast too. Like,
it's scary
fast.
And it's unwieldy. And whenever like massive corporations are into it, and all the people that were like, this isn't a good idea, they have to do it to keep up.
Right.
So now they're putting out AI, and China has DeepSeek. So it's like,
Rogers just laid off, you know, one of the 3 major telecommunication companies in Canada, just laid off like 9,000 people or something for AI.
It don't matter.
And
AI.
like these Canadian telecommunication companies, TELUS, Rogers, Bell, like they are a racket, man.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we pay like the highest rates of like internet cable like in the world because of these, you know, our antitrust laws are not strong like they are in the US. So like I know back in like 2019, Rogers and Bell were found to have inflated prices 900%, and were just basically stealing from people. And the CRTC, which is Canada's like commission on regulating this stuff, ordered them to lower the what they had done, and they just filed an appeal in court, and then it got a stay at proceedings. So I think they lowered it, but at the end of the day, I think Bill got fined like $7 million, and that was it. And these companies rake in billions of dollars a year from Canadians.
Yeah.
And you just see like stadiums getting named Rogers Center or the Bell Center, or, Telus' name going on everything,
There's no competition.
Yeah.
They raise their rates together.
Yeah.
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 I think similar to what you were saying.
Yeah.
So there's no competition.
Yeah. And if it was US based, they would be, like the US has strong laws against that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like the UFC just got dinged for antitrust violations, and what the UFC does is far less of antitrust or anti-competition practices than these cable companies,
At this point too, it's you need to have internet access.
Right.
It's like having a monopoly on water.
Yeah.
It's you can't have 3 companies control this resource that everyone needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we pay for like 10 gigs of data or like 20 gigs of data, we pay like $60 to $80 for that. And when other countries, you pay like $20 for unlimited data.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Well, you go down the States and it's like, I think it's called like Freedom Mobile. That's like one out of like banks there. There's thousands, I believe, banks. Like me and you could start a bank if we had the capital.
Right.
And you need that competition so that they can't nail you to the wall with, block your accounts or
banks, telecommunications, grocery stores, like these industries, like totally have politicians bought and paid for.
Oh yeah.
And you'll see on both sides of the conservative and liberal sides, they don't talk about it. Like when was the last time the conservatives brought up telecommunication companies like price gouging us? Nobody talks about it.
No.
Right. So, like they spend millions every year on campaigns for, campaign funding for politicians. Right. So it's very, 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 very lame. So, and like what are the big banks in Canada? It's, you got BMO, Scotiabank,
RBC.
There's only a handful, right?
Yeah, I think there's 5.
Yeah.
TD.
It makes it safe to invest in those banks. Like they're very safe investments, and it's because our laws are like make them just a staple of our economy, basically. Even if those banks were to fuck up and totally lose a bunch of money, our government wouldn't allow them to go out of business.
Yeah. Yeah. You ever drink Black Rifle?
Never. No.
It's great.
Is it?
It's really good coffee. I fell in love with it.
Yeah. What's this? What we're drinking?
That's Nespresso.
Oh.
Good coffee.
It is good.
Yeah. We buy the bags. That's what we drink when we're camping.
Yeah.
But we go through a fucking ton of it.
Yeah.
We'll go to Nashville. I'm getting like a suitcase full. It's going to be awesome.
Smuggle it back in.
Yeah.
They probably try to seize that too.
They probably would. They smell the freedom off it.
Yeah.
Fuckers.
Yeah, this coffee smells too free and fresh, dude.
A lot of liberty in this coffee, in this bag.
Yeah. Yeah, fresh coffee is it's tough to keep. From what I know about coffee beans, they attract mold very easily. So yeah, it's really easy to get moldy coffee.
Yeah.
And then you just drink it. You don't even know because it's hard to taste that kind of moldy coffee bean. But then it just doesn't give you a boost. You'll just feel like shit after you drink. You ever have a coffee and feel like shit and you just feel like taking a nap?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like old shitty coffee.
Oh shit, man! I never knew that.
Yeah.
If you put it in the freezer, does that do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You can save it by putting it in the freezer, keeping it dry. So
because we had like bags that were like a year old.
Yeah.
We drank it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be good, but it might not be. Right. You never know.
Might have
coffee's expensive to. Like the reason why coffee's expensive because it takes a fucking long time for a coffee bean to grow, So
I didn't know that. How long does it take?
I don't know. I don't know everything, dude. But it's like,
How was coffee made?
I think coffee first originated in like Ethiopia. The coffee.
Yeah, I've heard
bean,
that.
right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it takes a long time for a fucking bean to be harvested.
Isn't it crazy that Ethiopia created coffee?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
I think so. And like they're still poor. Like they should be
Man, but
trillionaires.
it's a tough place to live though, right?
Yeah.
And like what else? I don't know much about Ethiopia at all, but I mean, starvation there. Like, I mean, it's often like one of the worst places in the world for like just like food and all that stuff, right? It's probably tough to grow crops there, and people like if civilization kind of started in like the African region, and then we have some global catastrophe over the year, because I mean, from what like ancient Egypt, like it just wasn't like a desert. There was like lush greenery around that area. So, agriculture there, or the ability to stay in one place and live off the land, was a lot easier than it is there now. So then you have people migrating away from that place and branching out, going like north into Europe, where crops are better to sustain. It's easier to grow stuff. And then you have civilization there starts advancing then at a higher rate than it was in those other places, because it's just too hard to live off the land there. I think that's like a lot of that kind of migration patterns that you see from like human history. Ever see that like on the planet, where you see like, here's where the first evidence of like human beings kind of start, and then you see them kind of migrating away.
Yeah.
It's all just to find like better fertile land, I think, really.
Was that before Pangea or after?
Oh my God, after.
Yeah.
Pangea
okay.
was.
I'm retarded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pangea is like, that's a long time ago.
That makes sense. The tectonic plates shifting probably would fuck people up.
That takes a long time. I mean, like I think they date ancient Egypt back, what, like 12,000 years? I mean, that's the
non-biblical.
Well, I mean, that's what's on the books. Like, that's the official thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, people suspect it's been around a lot longer than that, so.
Yeah, it seems like it. Like they keep finding, I can't say they keep finding, but it seems like there was like civilizations that never had a history that they're finding evidence of all the time.
Yeah. And, it's tough to find artifacts, especially in places where there's a lot of acidity in the ground, like jungles. So like South Africa or South America, it's so hard to find any kind of fossils there of anything, because the ground just basically eats it up and disintegrates it, right? So they find a lot of through like LiDAR technology, which is basically it's kind of the same stuff that police use to you're shooting radar at the land, and they're getting back like structures, like ancient structures that have just kind of been lost through time to the jungle. Same thing with like dinosaurs too. Like the amount of dinosaur fossils they find is like minuscule to the amount of suspected like species they believe were on the go back then.
That's crazy.
They're just lucky to have found like a T-Rex.
Yeah.
I think there's only like one or two like or maybe just one like Tyrannosaurus Rex that's been reconstructed through actual fossils. So this stuff is like incredibly rare.
It's crazy because like we don't know anything.
We don't know shit.
And it's like,
but we think we know a lot. That's the thing about a lot of academia, right? Is that like our history is like very mysterious, but we think we know what it is. But it's a lot of it's guesswork through evidence, and you're extrapolating on that. But you're only finding, you're extrapolating on the only little bits of evidence that you find. Like this other stuff that I mentioned that is just kind of lost through time and through, the erosion of the planet, like swallowing things up. essentially like every 100,000 years, the planet is like regenerating its crust. Is like like the mantle is getting like kind of swallowed up and recycled, and all that plant matter and like flora is like gets eaten up down to the ground, probably made into oil, which is why they think there's like oceans of oil. Like there's a lot of oil, more
That
than
would
we
make
think,
sense. Yeah.
because it's not oil isn't dinosaurs. It's it's basically a lot of plant matter and even like matter from like the oceans and stuff, right? So, but just think about how much of that stuff if that stuff is constantly getting like sucked into the earth and then grinded down and recycled every 100,000 years, and that's continually going on over the course of 4.5 billion years. I mean, that's like what the fuck.
It's like a full delete every so often.
Yeah,
It's weird too. I don't follow a lot of like historical finds or
yeah,
what do they call them, when the studies of ancient civilizations.
mm-hmm.
But when they found those possible tunnels under the pyramids
Right.
with lidar, I just read a bit about it, and like you hear these like academics talk, and they're so married to
Right.
the things that they've written,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, no, this is horseshit. There's
Yeah.
nothing. It's like,
Now I know the guys. I think they're, I've seen those pictures, and then of what lidar has shown that is underneath the pyramids, and then the replication of what the people who found that stuff or what they believed it to be, and it's such a jump of yeah, they're like, this is a massive like spiral staircase going down into the like a kilometer down into the ground. I'm like, are you sure about that? Because it kind of just looks like nothing to me.
we believe that's where the moon generators are. It's
Yeah.
like, okay.
But when the Earth is like consuming everything at that kind of a rate, we have no clue really what was here like 100 or a couple of 100,000 years ago. Like they say that the best way for us to leave, so like if our civilization were to end and that's it, the best way for us to leave kind of a like a mark for maybe another like species to find whatever other species evolves, or if aliens come to the planet and then are archaeologists themselves and are trying to discover if anything intelligent was here. They said, we got to put that shit on the moon. Like we have to put some kind of a monument or like an obelisk, kind of 2001 Space Odyssey style, on the moon and kind of document our history on the moon, because nothing's going to like survive long on the Earth.
Jesus.
in like a galactic sense of time. Right?
Yeah.
So it's we got to get on that.
Yeah.
A little tribute to, because even when they like sent Voyager out, the space probe, and they put that golden record on there, and in the event that some alien species or race comes across Voyager, which is not even, it hasn't even technically left our solar system. I mean, if you're like the Oort cloud is like technically a part of our solar system. So, and this thing's been traveling at Mach chicken since the, I don't know, 60s or something like that. It's going super fucking fast. And in our kind of galactic region, I mean, it's still like right next to Earth. Like it's not even close to like out of our, like what we would consider like a star system, So, and by the time, and that'll just decay,
Yeah.
It'll just decay and not be
useful,
right? So by the time anybody really locates it, if they do,
Yeah.
So,
if you can hear me scratching, it's because I'm covered in fly bites. Apologize.
Yeah. No, that sucks.
Yeah, it's funny. I had this like super embarrassing meathead moment at the campground. Like we're in like a park, and everyone travels on golf carts because like it's like kind of like a quad, and you fly around. And I got like no sleep. I had a dog on me all night.
Yeah.
So anyway, no sleep. something happened with the coffee. I didn't have enough coffee, and I'm driving, and there's two
No Zanies?
I had Zanies. Fuck, it would have been a lot worse if I didn't have Zanies. So anyway, I'm like running around, it's a bunch of shit. I'm super annoyed, and there's these two dudes like our age in a golf cart in front of me, and they're driving super slow. And so I go. It's not a proper street, so I go around them. The guy's like, "Hey, buddy, you in a big hurry or what?" So I fucking slam on the brakes. No. And I was like, "Hey, man, you want to follow me? I'm going up there." It was like such a fucking stupid thing. The guy was like, so I fucking peeled off, right? I was driving. I'm like,
road rage on a golf cart.
Oh, Jesus. It was so stupid. Yeah.
That's it, man.
Then like every once in a while, it's like
camping can be stressful. I mean, we went out and we camped out of the back of my truck. We got like a truck tent, and man, the campgrounds were fucking like they had me drove because our neighbors campers, they're gone cracked, man. Like it was just parents and kids just yelling and screaming at each other. Car alarms getting set off. Like it was not a camping experience. It was, you know, like we just inherited new neighbors that suck, right? Like we would.
And you're in thin sheets.
Yeah,
that's what tents are. They're like just like a thin sheet.
Yeah, like we have much more privacy on our own deck and quiet, you know, than
people that publicly yell at each other.
Yeah,
are the worst people that exist.
Yeah,
it's like use your outside voice.
Yeah,
you know, or I guess your inside voice is what they say it. But yeah, especially if they're like, "Give that up, Michael." You know, it's like just take them aside.
Yeah,
talk to them.
And it was that kind of shit all night.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You're there to relax, be under the stars. You got a bunch of skeets screaming at each other next door.
But spoke with Dr. Friday, and he said he thinks my ribs are fractured, you know. So it makes sense because I got this lingering like stabbing pain in here, like right localized right here. If I push in, the soup fucking really hurts.
Jesus.
You know. So
what do you
I still had 2 matches after I broke those ribs too. So.
My God.
You know, and I was like, you know, this is an unreasonable amount of pain right now. There must be something wrong, you know, because, but that's another meathead thing to do is like with broken ribs and you're still trying to fight
go through it
in a tournament nobody gives a fuck about, right? You know, like, so, you know, but yeah, what are you gonna do, right?
Well, you got to do it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Like, guys, my ribs hurt. I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
People would be like, Peter left because his ribs hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. In the moment, like you can't prove how hurt you are.
Yeah.
So you gotta at least throw yourself out there and just, you know, and fail in spectacular fashion. Right. But I won my next match after that. Right. But
that's impressive. Broken ribs.
Yeah.
Still out there winning matches.
Yeah. But,
so how do you heal? How do you heal from fractured ribs?
Nothing. Like I got this kind of compression garment on right now, which is helping, you know, but if it's a small fracture, you just kind of got to take her easy, I guess. So I don't even have an x-ray yet. I'm waiting for a requisition from my family doctor, but I don't even know if he'll give me that at this point. You might just say like, okay, well, and what's that going to do at this point? But
fucking Canada.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like ibuprofen now, and that's that. You know, a lot of waiting around. I was able to go for like a little bit of a run today, but even when the lungs inflate too much and the chest expands, it's, you know, it sucks. You know, so.
It's under your tit meat, like.
Yeah, it's like right here.
Fuck. Yeah, that's a rough spot.
Yeah. So I guess because you know when I got tossed. And he leaves his feet and you know, so we're hitting the mat and the mat is this thick and it's on like a concrete basketball court. And I just heard all this like popping, you know, when we both crashed down. I mean, I'm 240. He was at least that or more. And that's like, you know, that's where all the force came down right there. So everything was strained there. Like my pec and like my back, all that was strained. So I was hoping it was just like soft tissue damage. Oh, but the soft tissue damage seems like it's all gone now, and I just have this like stabbing pain.
Fuck.
You know, so.
Yeah, the pops definitely a little beyond tissue damage.
I think, well, like cartilage can pop and stuff, so I was hoping like, you know, you know, like my neck's always like, my neck is like Rice Krispies. It's always like
Yeah,
snap,
I'm
crackle,
the same
pop,
way.
right? You
Again,
know?
like I find it hard to like a lot of times. I've mentioned this before, but I find it hard to like turn my head
Yeah,
like probably a couple times a month.
yeah,
Where it's like it's hard,
right.
especially if I'm driving and like one of the kids is talking. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
what?
yeah. That's it, man. It's the life of a meathead.
Yeah, it's
Have
fun.
you seen any of that like new Epstein document stuff?
Yeah, yeah. It's the same. I mean, it's the same fucking song and dance. It doesn't matter, you know. The thing that I hate most about it is
Yeah.
they got me again.
Yeah,
You know, they
Yeah.
got me again. It
Yeah.
was they're like, we got some people. We're gonna fucking tear up the system.
yeah,
And then they got in there, and then somebody was like, "You're not fucking doing that." They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you're right." You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
Epstein was just a dude. You know, he did some bad stuff. He's dead now. What are we?
That Peter Ducey guy pressed the press secretary on it. Like good on him, you know. And
I never heard that.
yeah, he was like, "Come on." He was just like, you know, we were told by Pam Bondi there, you know, like a couple of months ago now that she had the file on her desk and it was all going to be exposed. You know, it was ready and waiting for her review, and you know, and the press secretary just like talked around it, you know, and so I mean, it seems to me at this point where you have these connections through like it has to be an intelligence operation at this point. And
Yeah.
I think that it's probably a national security concern of some kind that if this gets exposed, then a major player on the world stage is implicated, that it's going to cause like major upheaval like worldwide, right? So, you know, like the suspicion is that there's a connection to the Mossad through Ghislaine Maxwell, and her dad, Robert Maxwell, was likely affiliated with the Mossad. And I mean, he got disappeared, or he had a heart attack back in the 90s and fell off a boat and, you know, magically died.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then he was given this big funeral in Israel. And then, you know, Israel, for a lot of right reasons, is like ruthless about protecting their own, right? And so it seems like they'll go through incredible lengths to try to protect their country. And so through Ghislaine Maxwell and her father, there's that Mossad connection, or allegedly, suspectedly, and just, you know, by like there's not going to be just as an investigator, you know, and just if you're running a file or somebody's running a criminal operation for trafficking people, there's not just going to be a magical document that has everybody's name on it, like a smoking gun document like that. That's just not how things operate. Like, you know, you're not just going to find a document that is like the Epstein list, and then you have all
There's
these,
not a guest book on the island.
right? You know, but through an investigation, if you're looking at ledgers and Rolodexes, phone communications, flight logs, and you're compiling all these things, you should be able to compile persons of interest that are associated with this guy. And they do that. Like, I mean, they do have like Bill Clinton on record of going to that island 12 times. You know, Prince Andrew's another guy, right? I think Trump is in there as well, but no record of him actually going to that island, as far as I know, right? But
There was major scientists, Bill Gates,
yeah,
like people
And
of influence.
Bill Gates was apparently divorced over it. You
Yeah.
know, allegedly that's his wife divorced him because of his connection with Epstein, right? So what does his wife know? You know, so like as an investigator, I mean, you have Ghislaine Maxwell. She's alive, right? So
She's in like tennis prison right now.
yeah, so she's
Yeah.
serving 20 years for trafficking minors to Epstein, I guess.
Mm.
I think that's what she was convicted of. I don't, you know, so, but what the hell does she know? I mean, ultimately you can't interrogate her and force her to say anything, but but as far as I know, she hasn't been interviewed since she was convicted, you know, and since he died, she hasn't been interviewed.
Yeah.
So what's the FBI doing? Why wouldn't you at least bring her in and talk to her? And, you know, there's ways that you can encourage people to speak and give you information. You can offer a reduced sentence. You know, you can so if it's in the public interest that the information that she gives you is going to be valuable enough in the public's interest that a reduced prison sentence for her, as tough as that pill will be to swallow for the public, for the greater good, her reduced prison sentence is going to produce information on record that will expose greater evil, right? That is ultimately what you need to do in that situation. So why isn't that being done? And maybe it's in the works, but I mean that's a huge investigational point that needs to be addressed. Yeah. And I haven't heard anybody talk about that.
No, well, right? I mean, 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 Patel before he got in was talking about all the loopholes,
right?
And then he got in, and there was no loopholes.
Yeah,
he's like, we don't have any video evidence. Mm-hmm. He worded it in such a way, that seems like they do.
Yeah,
but it's a slap across the face for everybody because a documentary came out early on when he committed suicide. And in the documentary, he was arrested a couple times because girls reported him, and the police officers had them there, and they were told it's above their pay grade or yeah. So it's like, okay, well, who's above your pay grade?
Yeah, I think that one was in New York or something, or maybe it was like one of these. It was like a smaller police force, like a county or something that was at jurisdiction in one of the houses he had. That a lot of this shit got exposed.
I mean, it screams intelligence.
Yeah,
and then it's swept under the rug, but you have all of these super influential people, politicians, scientists. They go to Child Rape Island. This guy gets arrested a bunch of times. Finally, they make it stick. He commits suicide, And then the people that said they were going to bring it to justice, because it is an outrageous injustice. Yeah. Everyone knows this is weird.
Yeah.
Is like, never mind. Yeah. Nothing to it. And then Diddy got off,
Diddy.
So it's like.
I don't even want to like look into that one, like the Diddy stuff, because it's just like, fuck, man. Like, how the fuck does like that guy get off? Right?
Oh man, everybody was like, rape, he beat me up. Rape, he beat me up.
It's on video.
It's on video.
Yeah,
they're like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, that one's confusing because like, like I can't even wrap my head around why that one would be buried intentionally. The Epstein one I can't, because you say if it is. Hypothetically, it is like a Mossad operation, and it's like Israel like trying to influence American politics. If that got exposed, that ultimately they were behind that would be the ramifications for that would be like, people have to understand that. I think the top 3 private companies that benefit from an Israel and American relationship are Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and RTX, would each be Raytheon. So these weapons manufacturers, I mean, Lockheed Martin supplying Israel with F-35s, right? Boeing F-15s, and RTX, like I think they might develop like Patriot missile systems for Iron Dome or something like that, or whatever. So I mean, these companies make billions and billions and billions of dollars off that relationship every year. Like, you imagine the influence that has on a politician's willingness, or whoever is in the operations of that government, to expose that, because public sentiment at that point is going to be like, no more. Like, like if this is what this foreign country's doing to have influence over our politics, then we don't want to give them any more money or weapons or whatever, right? So, I mean, we're speaking hypothetically here, right? But
of course,
but I mean, the implications for exposing that is like, that's fucking like that is super disruptive, but like, I don't know, like, what's the Diddy situation? Like, what is the?
It's almost like they're linked, because the Epstein Island
Yeah.
really targeted politicians and scientists,
Right.
influence on the world stage.
Yeah.
And Diddy's blackmail targeted celebrities,
Right.
you know, and like, who do people listen to?
Yeah.
Both those
Yeah.
groups. So
Yeah. And Diddy had this huge, like, you know, out of nowhere, he gets involved in politics when Obama came around, and he had this whole vote. Remember that vote or die
Yeah.
thing, you know? So
Vote or I'll rape you at my mansion. Yeah.
yeah, vote or yeah. Or, you know, I'm going to release a video of some crazy shit that you were doing at my freak off parties, right?
Well, like, I seen one of like Leo DiCaprio.
No.
There was like a picture.
Not Leo, dude.
I think so. You see him, he was at the World Economic Forum taking notes like he fucking knew anything, you know?
Yeah, no, man. I don't.
It's just, they're like,
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't.
fantastic actor, you know.
He's
Love
the
the
best.
acting.
You know, I don't want to believe. That,
No, I feel you.
That,
I feel
that
ya.
Leo's involved, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucked, man. Like, the world is more fucked than people understand or realize, and it's you know, everything's a game, man. Everything's a big.
It
fucking
really
game,
is. Yeah.
Right. So.
I'm starting to really believe everything is bullshit. Like, everything is
Yeah.
a lie.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, when you work for the government, you realize everything's bullshit. You know. Like,
yeah.
these people don't know what the fuck they're doing. Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. You know, like, it's an absolute fucking shit show, and things just happen to get done occasionally. You know, and the rest of the time, people are complaining and pissed off, right?
Yeah.
But you know, like, it's a fucking like miracle that anything gets done at all, because you just have the people that climb the ranks in government are the biggest, you know, like dorks of all time. Right.
I'd imagine.
You know, like, can you imagine you're working for the Canadian government and you want to climb the ranks in the Canadian government and be as high up in the Canadian government as you can? Like, that is your life's goal. And you just want, and to do that, you're willing to check any integrity that you have at the door and throw people under the bus as you climb that ladder, and to get you where, right?
You got to be a piece of shit to make the move.
Yeah,
to get up there.
To be like some minister in the Canadian government.
Oh yeah, yeah. Fuck that. It's funny. I was watching this. I sent you a link on it like earlier today, but I was late. I was late sending it to you. But they had this high-ranking RCMP official say that there was 4,000 organized crime gangs.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Canada.
Yeah.
4,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, over the last 10 years, the Trudeau government let in 20,000, up to almost 20,000 people with criminal records from other countries.
That's great.
Right. So, and then they had to complete, like, this was all recent news, and they had to complete some program or whatever. And then it was all good. But so their criminal records are just totally wiped and not acknowledged from other countries. So we don't even know, like, what kind of crimes these criminals that we let into the country have committed, whether it's murder, sexual assault, terrorism. I mean, we've become a hotbed for terrorism in the world now.
Yeah.
Which is fucked.
Yeah.
It's so fucked. And there's independent intelligence, or like intelligence, you know, from other countries like the UK or the US, say like Canada is an absolute huge red flag for terrorism, and the next like major terrorist attack is going to have some connection to Canada, right? So,
well, that's where,
like, what the fuck are we, Afghanistan?
Oh man,
you know, like
it's negligence, and I think they're creating a lot of chaos here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the cartels are shipping fentanyl out of Canada.
Yeah, the Mexican cartels operate out of Canada.
Yeah,
because even if like you've seen, like, if you get caught trafficking drugs in the U.S., like, you're going to jail, and it's going to be like, the penalty is much greater. And we've seen it, you get caught trafficking drugs in Canada, you're not even kept in jail, you're not even remanded, you're just let out. Like that day, essentially. They have 24 hours to bring you before a justice or bring you into court, whether they're going to keep you in jail, or they're going to remand you in custody, you're going to bail, or you're going to get no bail, and that's it. and they're always let out. They had the biggest drug bust in Canadian history there a couple of weeks ago, and every single one of them they let out, right?
Threw him
So-
a party. Yeah, it's
like, lawlessness is not it's not a recipe for success for a country, right?
no. I always wondered if it was, they want to show compassion for all the liberal voters, but it's hard to believe that that's what it is. you
Yeah,
know?
well, yeah, when it's so stupid, and you see like every statistic that is negative, like that is going on in Canada, just rising,
Mhm.
crime rising, charges for terrorism rising, property crime rising, drug trafficking rising,
Yeah.
all these liberal ideas or these theories on how to handle crime, it all falls flat on its face. No, it never works.
Yeah. It's always chaos.
It never works.
Seems
nothing's
like
practical.
Based on nothing, just throwing this out there, but like, if you were China, like imagine, your biggest adversary is the US,
Right.
like hemming them in on both sides.
Yeah.
Canada and Mexico, you got the cartels down there, which
Right.
have ties to China.
Yeah.
And because I think they use some of the precursors from China that get sent to the cartels to make fentanyl. And then Canada completely opens up its borders, also found to have ties to China,
Yeah. Right.
And so both sides of the border,
Yeah.
uh,
That's the way to infiltrate the U.S. Right.
Yeah.
Is through basically weak laws in Mexico and weak laws and enforcement in Canada and Mexico.
yeah.
And so, Canada or China owns 11% of Canada's debt. So 11% of our debt is China's. So when they have that much of our country that they essentially own, they have a tremendous influence over politicians, and to basically trade with China or like BC. Like I know recently there's some issue about the manufacturing of ferries. So instead of doing it in Canada, of manufacturing these ships in Canada, we have like climate change regulations that would prevent the manufacturing of these ferries in Canada. So what do? Well, we'll just export it to the manufacturing to China and have China build them for us, where there is nothing like that. There is no regulations, and we'll just give all our money to the Chinese to build this stuff for us, and not grow our economy at all, right? So that's kind of how things work. Back
to the AI thing. It's like we talked before about the hollowing out of the middle class.
Yeah.
And you look at manufacturing, like you said, getting sent to different countries,
Yeah.
China and India. And then if AI is taking, jobs that are remedial,
Right.
but like people work these jobs and they
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's going to destroy our economy, and all the money is just going to rise to the top.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Our government thinks you can build our economy by taxing us,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I got some good news. We're going to give you a $500 credit.
Yeah.
We're just going to raise taxes.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, Carney's big push was like, we're having tax cuts for the middle class. It's going to like be massive for the middle class. We're finally going to start like, the middle class are the backbone of the country. And, that's essentially what grows an economy. So you're going to get $273 a year back on your taxes.
he saved us. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, that covers my phone bill from TELUS or your cable or internet bill from Rogers for a month. Thanks.
What's that, a week of meat?
Yeah. It's a carton of eggs.
Oh man, speaking of meat, I've been like addicted to the Liver King. I know we talked about him last week.
Yeah.
But man, so it turns out when he got snapped in the eye with, with one of those workout cables.
I've had that happen where I've got it in the face. I didn't get it in the eyeball, but I've, like back in the day, I'm like doing like calf stretches or whatever. You're like, like this. You're like, yeah, just one more. And then the thing comes back and he snaps you right in the face. Yeah.
Did you try to kill Joe Rogan then?
Yeah. I did not try to kill Joe Rogan after that. No,
Going to Texas.
yeah. I think I just kind of like I was just called myself a fucking idiot, and then
Well, supposedly he got a brain injury from that. Like,
from like a rubber band.
I think so. I think that's what they linked it to, because it fucked his eye up. He almost went blind.
Right.
I don't even know if he can see out of that eye, but anyway, they're saying he has like a brain injury, which I mean makes sense when you see him. But the more I watch the guy talking about his mental health, it's like he was getting huge online, and he was like a real celebrity. He had like a documentary. He was like hit the pinnacle.
Right.
But he's so fucking cringy, and what he's talking about is like there's like get lots of sleep. That makes sense. Eat organic food, get your own meat, like that stuff. That all makes sense. But he's like, I think he was like sunning his asshole. There's like a thing where he
tanning his balls or
tanning
something.
his
Like
balls.
Yeah.
He's like, this is great for you, and like eating fucking raw liver and all this shit. But the more he talks, like I truly believe that his ego is so fragile that when Joe Rogan had Derek from More Plates, More Dates on, it like broke his brain.
Right.
Like, because they're like, this guy's clearly lying. Here's the
Yeah.
proof: $11,000 a month in steroids.
Yeah.
And then it comes on, and he's like, I do steroids. And then he's like, I had poor self-esteem. 4 to 5 men a year, or 4 to 5 suicides are men, and like basically I did it for the men that commit suicide. Like he just outrageous. His ego is crazy. So I'm watching this guy, and it's like, is it drugs? Is it a brain injury? But I think it's his fucking ego. I think he's just got a really fragile ego.
I mean, sometimes guys, their brains just break and they get manic.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, he's like, if he goes through a stressful event, and stress is weird because stress, everybody's bucket. If you got a stress bucket, everybody's bucket is different. So like we don't know what it's like to be fucking famous and then have your whole world kind of crashing down and people talking shit about you.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of stress that is like. But if you're thinking about stress as like a hose and you're pouring water into that bucket, and that's a lot of stress going in that bucket, and it overflows, and then your brain snaps and you go manic, and then you start trying to like kill Joe Rogan, I guess. But I think I saw a bit of that in the documentary or something, that he was, because he's kind of like a small guy, like he's not very tall, and that's kind of like a classic kind of trope for bodybuilders where, if they're small, well, I'm just going to get fucking huge at least I could control that, and I think like he's mentioned being bullied or something too, when he was younger or whatever. But I mean, yeah, you can put the pieces together and see how like, a guy's brain can break after putting, like, no doubt the guy works fucking hard. Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to get like jacked and be like ripped up like that all the time, I mean, that's a lot of fucking hard work. It doesn't matter how much steroids you do. You still got to fucking work hard.
Oh yeah. You need discipline.
And then you look at his house and everything is like, meticulous, and,
he built an empire.
He built, so, he put in a tremendous amount of work to get to the point that he was at. And then just to have like one email, send all that down the gutter, like from his perspective, right? Because I mean, from everybody else's perspective, it's like, yeah, dude, you're fucking, you've lied about your whole kind of like gig here for this entire time. You influence people to buy your products based on kind of how you're presenting yourself and how you look, and you're jacked and all that kind of thing. So that's from the outside looking in, that's the reasonable perspective. It's like, yeah, you can see how your kind of house of cards is going to crumble here, right? But from when you're the hero of your own movie, and from your perspective that he would have, I mean, it's probably like that one event. If that email just didn't get leaked, then my whole life would be I'd still be on this trajectory of like getting more famous and whatever, right? But also like, I don't even know what it's like to want to be famous, or like, I've never
Yeah.
had like, I think that's like I mean, there's plenty of Canadians obviously that are like super famous, and like Bieber and Jim Carrey and all these people, like some of the biggest celebrities in the world, right? And they obviously wanted to be famous at a certain point, but like in American culture, I think it's like being famous or being like ambitious is much more like ambition, I guess, right, is what I'm looking for. Like Americans are much more ambitious than Canadians, right? So I have no idea what it's like to want to be that guy and have all these people looking at you and whatever. So for me, the whole thing is just fucking weird, anyways. So, but if he's putting all his eggs in that basket and that's all he ever wants and that's his big dream, and then it all comes crashing down. I mean, it's going to be, no matter how ridiculous we might think it is, for him, it's incredibly stressful. And
Absolutely.
so
But like, what a beautiful contrast it is to see him acting this way,
right,
and to see Joe Rogan, who's also a small guy. I think he's only like 5'6" or 5'7", who was attacked for COVID stuff.
yeah,
Was attacked for he went through the alleged racism thing,
right,
and like didn't freak out.
right,
Like worked his way through it, climbed out of the
yeah,
hole, and came back.
yeah,
Bigger and better.
yeah. Because I mean, his approach to life is like being as honest with himself as he can, right? And that's how he kind of works on his flaws. And if and so he is who he is, and he knows himself, right? But if you're trying to be somebody you're not, you're trying to be this Liver King Neanderthal that nobody is,
Mm.
then that's where it's going to be a lot harder for you to kind of maintain your course, and like sail your ship continually in that direction. Um, right? And
No, that's perfect. That makes
yeah,
a lot of sense.
yeah. I mean, and like being a martial artist, and like there's no bullshit in the kind of martial arts that he does,
Yeah.
right? You can't have a massive ego, like. Well, I mean, you can if you're fucking sick at jujitsu, I guess, but you're like Gordon Ryan or some shit, right? But I mean, it's only like Gordon Ryan that can really have this big ego in jiu-jitsu. I mean, everybody else loses, right?
Yeah.
So like working your way up through years of like grappling to get your black belt. I mean, how many times you get humbled, right? And how many times you have to self-reflect and you have to understand, well, I'm not the fucking man. But if all you're doing is slinging weights and getting jacked and doing steroids and you feel fucking sick, and then you're building a business and it's really successful, you're getting millions of dollars, and you start to really believe you're the fucking man.
It's got to be hard. The whole celebrity thing is confusing to me.
Yeah.
Well, like you're saying, like I don't like seeing myself on camera. I fucking hate editing these videos,
Yeah.
and I try to get away with doing just an audio podcast, but like I'm not going to be able to reach anybody,
Right.
And like, especially having somebody come on, and if they open up,
Yeah.
it's like they're just on. I don't know. I like them to feel like they're kind of out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you heard your own voice?
Yeah.
That, like, I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's rough, man. Like I sit through our video.
Yeah.
I'll sit through this tomorrow and just seeing my fucking face.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, man, look, your
I know,
hair and
dude.
your fucking,
Yeah.
I can pick
Yeah.
myself apart, and then
Yeah.
it's like, that's a fucking dumb thing to say. It's like all that shit.
Yeah.
But I do think that's important, because like,
Right.
there's a big difference between having confidence and like loving yourself,
Right.
and like people are like, you should love yourself.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's a difference in being comfortable with yourself,
Yeah.
and being infatuated with yourself, where
Yeah.
your ego's so fragile then that you can't overcome stuff. You fucking get defensive, or like,
Right.
it's like, you're not the best,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like, you're good at some shit,
Yeah.
but
And so much of that is in like, bodybuilding too. Right. Like if that's your main thing, I mean, like these people pick themselves apart like fucking crazy, man. And like guy can be stacked the fuck up, like totally jacked, and think they look small. right? And it's just, it gets so, like, if any, like, you see it, like the Instagram algorithms, and like you're seeing like competitive bodybuilders and like women too, and they're preparing for these competitions, and they're so lean and they look so unhealthy, but I can tell you, I guarantee you in their mind they're like not lean enough,
Yeah.
you know.
Must be hard. Like the judges are so critical.
Yeah.
Like your calves are too small. You know, like your
Mm.
lats could be bigger.
Right.
And they're like,
Yeah.
fuck. I
Yeah.
look like shit.
Yeah.
Every time I watch one
It's
of
a
those,
pageant, right? It's like,
yeah,
so
exactly. I watch the Olympia every year.
yeah.
I love bodybuilding. I think it's
Yeah. Well, I love it too. Like,
pumps
you
me
know,
up.
I think it's hilarious. Like, you know, like, I got friends that are bodybuilders too, and like, you know, but you know, if you don't take yourself too seriously, and because like, you know, when you're hitting like a bicep, double bicep, you know, it's kind of funny, man. Like,
Mhm.
like if it's kind of a funny thing to do, but and you know, so guys that are like, you know, you got to take it serious if you're going to compete, you know, but if you're taking it so serious that you know, you don't think it's kind of ridiculous to like fucking be like flexing on a stage. Like, you
Yeah.
have to have that kind of self-awareness a little bit, right? And be able to laugh at it, you know. And I think like Arnold really handled that perfectly, where, you know, he's kind of like, I'm the fucking man, and like, you know, I'm doing this thing, and he's like, haha, look at me. But there's always like jokes involved, or there's always like him chirping other guys, or like, you know, and it was always like a big game to him, you know. So, and he's like taking like ballet lessons to work on his posing a little bit, right? So like he pulled it off with a lot of charm and style, right? And and then after his era, it got so intense, and they got so shredded, and got so like pumped up on whatever kind of gas they could get their hands on. It became just like so crazy. I mean, I love Ronnie Coleman, you know, and he's a guy that gets away with, like, you know, if he's there just like flexing, he's like, you know, he's just like talking shit and he's flexing. It's like, it's kind of funny, and you're like, yeah, it's fucking Ronnie Coleman, right?
Yeah.
But very few guys can pull that off, I feel like, and just not make it kind of a, you know, an unnatural or just like a crazy thing to be at.
Well, you're
You
up
know?
there in speedos, you know, fake tan,
Yeah,
and you're like you said, fucking
yeah,
like
yeah,
throw Moses down.
yeah,
I went to one of my buddies competed, and a group of us went and watched.
yeah.
And like the guys up there who take it super serious, like they're not having fun, you know.
Right.
And they're not fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know.
Arnold always looked like he was having a blast.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
it was natural.
Yeah,
Like you see them out there and they pose and they're straining a smile.
yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
yeah, even the physiques back then they looked obtainable.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Like obviously it was genetics and a bit of gear, but it's not like today. Like
Yeah.
you said, like they look like fucking
Ninja Turtles, man.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
Yeah.
Or like fucking steroided up bovine.
Mm.
Like they just look so unnatural.
Right.
And it's like bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And you can see how that happens because, you know, every year it's like, you know, or like, what are you judging on? It's like, um, like how things just get carried away. Like it just got carried away, you know, more shredded, you know, more jacked, like more muscle. And how do you really prevent that from happening? It's like, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that either. Right. Like, how do you pull the reins back in, because they introduced this classic physique division.
That's a 𝐟𝐶 one, is it?
Yeah. And, you know, and that was supposed to be more relatable to like those classic physiques like Arnold and whatnot. But those guys are fucking shredded too.
They are.
They're fucking super shredded.
Yeah.
You know, like killing themselves shredded to get on stage. And so like, why are you having that division if that's the kind of game you're playing again? You're like, you're doing the same shit all over again. It's just, now you're just having people with different genetics and a different body type getting as shredded and as jacked as possible, right? So, you know, it's just...
It must ruin it. Like, I always liked working out. Like, when I was a kid, Muscle Mag was on the go.
Mm.
And it was like Lee Priest and like a bunch of these guys.
Yeah,
And I was like,
yeah.
oh man, like
He looks sick.
yeah, he was like crazy genetics.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like watching him and Ronnie Coleman,
Right.
and like flipping through that, like I wanted to go to the gym, and then the gym became like a great way to start the morning because you feel like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, my head's clear. I'm
Yeah.
going to go do it. But then the guys that love the gym and then start competing, it's like there's so much dieting and unfun things to do. You know, it's like, fuck, I got to work legs today because my legs look small.
Yeah.
It's like you're kind of giving yourself
yeah. It's body dysmorphia. You're giving yourself
there we go.
a total, you know, you're becoming delusional, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough because if you're looking at yourself in the mirror every day, it's really hard to notice changes, you know. But if you look at yourself like in the mirror like once a month, you're going to notice big changes. But that's the tricky thing with building muscle, is that people often think that it's never enough because the changes just don't happen overnight.
It's brutal too, man. Like when people start to criticize themselves on such a deep level.
Yeah.
Like I really think that you have to have a level of confidence to be happy.
Right.
Like you have to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're never there and you look fantastic, but you're so unhappy because you're so unhappy with yourself, I mean,
right.
What's it all for? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. You're just miserable all the time.
Yeah.
You can't enjoy life and you're just eating plain rice.
Plain rice and chicken. Taking around a briefcase full of, you know, Tupperware.
You're taking huge dumps all the time.
That's right. Protein farts.
Yeah.
It's there.
And you know, and you're irritable because you have to, like, there's no way, like these people, like in their relationships suffer too. Like if it's because you're like in a fight camp essentially, right? Because you're in your camp, you got your diet dialed in, you're preparing for a competition, and your body's taxed the fuck. You're going to be tired, you're going to be drained. And everybody in your orbit's got to put up with that, you know? So it's a huge strain, right? So, yeah, it's tough, right? But
a couple years ago, I started a bodybuilding clothing company called Pump Plus.
Yeah.
And I was just selling t-shirts and I designed a bunch of different, you know, it's this kind of like meathead stuff. Like, I had like a rainbow Uzi on the back and like, you know,
nice.
So I got a bit of money together and there's a young bodybuilder that I knew from like just through networking or whatever. So I came to him and I was like, you know, if you wear the gear, I'll give you a percentage of whatever we sell. And so I would go film him when he was working out and I'd put it on the Pump Plus page. And he, you know, jack, but juice to the tits, like his whole back was painful acne. You could see it. And like massive hair loss at like a young age.
Right.
And his moods, man, he was up and down. And like most of the time I could tell he was just like brooding, you know?
Yeah.
And and for what? You know,
that's the other thing is the mental health aspect.
When
you're on this roller coaster ride of hormones, how the fuck do you like keep your mental health in check with that, right?
Yeah.
So much of your mental health is dependent on your body having a homeostasis, right? And having like a baseline. And when your baseline is fucking jacked all the time, and if they're cycling on and off these drugs, I mean, you know, it's essentially impossible to keep like consistent mental health, like just healthy mental health, right?
Absolutely.
You know, so I don't know. It's yeah. I mean, like, you know, I talk a lot, like, you know, I'm not trying to talk shit about it. I mean, it's like, you know, I was into bodybuilding for a long time, you know, and I still am. I still enjoy it. Like, you know, I still like, you know, like I get a kick out of like just seeing dudes like fucking flex. I think it's hilarious, you know, and you know, and dudes like seeing other jacked dudes, right? You like seeing like, fuck, that guy's jacked.
Yeah,
you know? Like
it's impressive.
Yeah,
because it takes so much fucking work.
Yeah, you know, like you know, you can't cheat to get there, even though it's like, you know, if you're using chemicals. I mean, you still had to fucking pick heavy shit up
and eat right, you know, and eat a lot.
Yeah.
No, I get it. And
when I was trying to get huge, like I used to get butterflies in my stomach on the way to the gym because I knew like it was going to be dangerous in the gym today, you know, because I'm lifting so much that, if my footing's wrong here or like my balance is off there, like, and I drop this weight, like, I might be on the fucking floor for a week, like
Didn't you blow your knee out?
I broke my pelvis doing a squat.
Oh, fuck, that's way
one time.
worse. Yeah.
And I have like hip dysfunction on both sides, and then my neck is it cracks like is like crazy popping because of like overhead lifts I was doing or used to do. Dislocated both my shoulders a bunch of times, doing crazy lifts. Just goes on and on.
Yeah.
And because like that's the risk you got to take to get fucking huge. And so like when Ronnie Coleman squats 800 fucking pounds, like,
man,
I
love watching that.
That's scary.
I throw that on
shit,
sometimes, just
yeah. I mean, that's a scary fucking lift. And because you can really fuck yourself up if you mess that up. So yeah, I think people that know that, like when you see a guy that's fucking huge, you're like, yeah, you definitely have to, put yourself out there and put up a huge risk, to get to that level, right? Because I just don't believe in this, like the way these guys, or like you can get big is like, you put 20 pounds on the cable machine and you do like 1,000 tricep extensions, you gotta overload that muscle at some point, right? And to grow that muscle, right? But, and yeah, it's just fucking, sometimes you gotta do some dangerous shit to do that, I think, but.
Did you ever watch the Trend Twins before?
The Trend Twins?
Yeah.
No.
They're these two twins that are fucking jack sandwiches. They're gigantic.
Yeah.
And they're like open about their steroid use.
Mm-hmm.
Trend Twins, makes sense. But they have, I guess they have like a videographer that they've hired or whatever. They've been doing it for a while. They're impressive. They put up some crazy weight, man. It's wild to watch. But they also record like their freakouts. Like they have like, but they've fucking fought before. Two of them like punch each other in the face, and it's fucking crazy. Or they're just like, they have meltdowns all the time.
Yeah.
And
right.
I think, and they're a blast to watch. Like no shade. Like I really like them a lot. I watch them every Friday if I'm, especially like before jiu-jitsu, I'll throw them on because they're a blast and they're putting up real weight. But like they're trying to become pro. Yeah. And they're like, mental health is completely shot. They're in their young 20s. They're blasting gear. Yeah. And they're fucking losing their minds.
And I've arrested a lot of guys over the years that have been like blackout drunk and they're like steroided up dudes. And they're just like fucking animals. Like, you're dealing with a fucking animal. It's like, because you got this like jacked, like juiced up dude that, you get them in the cell after, and whatever, and they're just like bashing their head on the plexiglass window, boom, boom, splitting themselves open. Fuck. And it's like, dude, like, like you're raging here, dude. Like, like you are trend up, like you're just totally roid raging.
What's the steroid that makes you so aggressive?
I don't think there's any like solid evidence to have like one steroid that's the culprit or whatever. Okay. I think it's just too much fucking testosterone. You know, because testosterone is, I mean, that's the big difference between men and women. Why men commit more crimes than women and whatever. Or like more like violent crimes. It's like testosterone makes you more aggressive and it makes you more ambitious and if you have like 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 levels of testosterone where he's like, he gets popped for like 20 times normal levels and he's like, is that it? is that all he was?
Fuck man, I love 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭. Yeah.
And right, so I mean, if you mix like booze or other things in with that, or like your mental health is not great, you snap, then you get a Chris Benoit situation. But I just don't think, I think there's a lot of like bullshit out there about like roid rage, but it definitely will make, an otherwise like it would make like a person that is an asshole like more of an asshole, right?
Okay.
You know, I think. But
So probably like some underlying conditions.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's you know, like if you're just you know, Chris Benoit had like a tremendous amount of head trauma, right? He had a brain of like a 90-year-old man or something from all the chair shots, and his finishing move was a diving headbutt.
Jesus
You know,
Christ.
so you know, and then he had his best friend die. Eddie Guerrero died, and he had like this, you know, bunch of traumatic stuff happen, and then the cheese slides off the cracker and you know killed his fucking family. It's fucking terrible, right? But
It's probably CTE.
yeah, so but you know, it's a mix of all this shit, right? Like yeah, it's a combination of all of it, and I think, but you know, like if I'm like I'm a pretty like easygoing person. I'm not like I've never thrown a punch at anybody in uh, my life just by so many like words. Like there's always been like a physical threat to me or an intimate threat where I've had to defend myself. Right? I've never like raged out and hit anybody ever. You know, so like if I take like fucking trenbolone, like this, like what everybody is like always the suspect number one. Like if somebody's roid raging is out, people always say it's tren. Like that's not just going to turn me into some like monster or
Yeah.
like a criminal, right? But if somebody is like naturally like a person that's kind of predisposed to violence, then it can just dial that up a bit. You know, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that does make sense. Like
Yeah.
I take the Huberman stack, I call it. It's like Tonkat Ali and Fidocio Agressus.
Mm.
And that's like clinically proven. I'll say clinically, but it is proven that it raises your
Right.
testosterone. I can tell it's working because my balls got like fucking big from
No
it.
way.
Yeah, and I feel better. I sleep a bit better and stuff like that.
Nice.
Now it's not like bodybuilder amounts of testosterone,
Yeah.
but I feel my mood is better
Yeah.
because the big thing for me is sleep.
Yeah.
Like
Well, that's the thing. Like the thing about testosterone too, from my understanding, is like too much testosterone can make you irritable and make you more aggressive, and then not enough testosterone makes you irritable, which makes you an asshole.
yeah.
Right. So, because if your mind is you have that fog, that brain fog, and your testosterone levels are low, and your energy is low, um, things are going to be overwhelming to you easier than not. You know, like so if you're just a stable, healthy level of testosterone, you're going to be deal with things more appropriately. But you know, if you're just fucking tired in general, and there's multiple things getting added onto your plate, you're just going to snap, right? Or you're just going to be irritable, and you're going to not be well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there has to be that, you know, happy medium, right? But
No, that does make a lot of sense.
yeah, man.
All right, brother.